Last week we started out the book of Numbers, and we went through chapters 1 and 2, talking about the numbering of the children of Israel as they came out. All those that were 20 years and above, that were old enough to go to war, basically, except for the tribe of Levi, because God told Moses, don't number the tribe of Levi. They're different. And so in Numbers 3, where we pick up, it actually starts, it says in verse 1, "Now these are the records of Aaron and Moses when the Lord spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. And these are the names of the sons of Aaron, Nadab the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the anointed priests, whom he consecrated to minister as priests. Nadab and Abihu had died before the Lord when they offered profane fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. And they had no children, so Eleazar and Ithamar ministered as priests in the presence of Aaron their father." So I'm going to pause there for just a moment, because it starts off with, these are the records of Aaron and Moses. Now, the genealogy in Exodus 6, as well as Chronicles 6, suggests that Aaron and Moses were the direct sons of Amram and Jochebed. However, remember that in a lot of the lists of genealogies in the Bible, they skip people. It's not direct all the time. And so it says that he's the direct descendant of Amram. However, more than likely, Amram and Jochebed were the distant ancestors of Aaron and Moses. They weren't the direct father and mother. It was one of those father's houses things. And so they'll say, like, Moses, the son of Amram, the son of Levi, when in reality there were a few generations between each of those names. And so just keep that in mind, because we're going to find out that Amram is the son of Levi here in a minute. And so it makes Aaron and Moses actually part of the Kohathites, because it was Levi, Kohath, and Amram were the three. So we kind of see that balance out. So just keep that in mind whenever you read genealogies in the Bible. Some of them are not direct. They just say the names because they're of that family. And so then it talks about Aaron's children, and he says, Nadab the firstborn, and it kind of pauses there, because it's kind of a sad situation, even though he's the firstborn. Nadab the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Nadab and Abihu died in Leviticus chapter 9 and 10. Actually, the end of 9, I was going to read it for you. The end of 9, verse 22 says, "Then Aaron lifted his hands toward the people, blessed them, and came down from offering the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the peace offerings. And Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of meeting and came out and blessed the people. Then the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people, and fire came out from the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. When all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces." Chapter 10, verse 1 says, "Then Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer and put fire in it, put incense on it, and offered profane fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. So fire went out from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. And Moses said to Aaron, 'This is what the Lord spoke, saying, by those who come near me I must be regarded as holy, and before the people I must be glorified.' So Aaron held his peace." We don't really know what actually happened there that God broke out against Nadab and Abihu. But it's interesting that in Leviticus chapter 10, verse 8, just a few verses later, God prohibits the priesthood from being drunk while they minister. So it's very possible that while all this happened, Nadab and Abihu had been drinking, and they were drunk. And in their drunken state, they decided, hey, let's go put some incense before God. And they grabbed some fire from somewhere and put incense in it and went and started waving their censers, and God didn't like that. But we don't know for sure. But that is a possibility. It's interesting because I've always wondered, now why did God break out? What happened there? And so it says, so because they died, Eleazar and Ithamar were the only ones ministering as priests before, in the presence of Aaron their father. So in verse 5 it says, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, bring the tribe of Levi near, and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. And they shall attend to his needs, and the needs of the whole congregation, before the tabernacle of meeting, to do the work of the tabernacle. Also they shall attend to the furnishings of the tabernacle of meeting, and to the needs of the children of Israel, to do the work of the tabernacle. Verse 9. And you shall give the Levites to Aaron and his sons. They are given entirely to him from among the children of Israel. So you shall appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall attend to their priesthood, but the outsider who comes near shall be put to death. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of every firstborn who opens the womb among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. On the first day that I struck the firstborn of the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn of Israel, both man and beast. They shall be mine. I am the Lord. So God talks to Moses, and he says, bring all the Levites specifically, and give them to Aaron. And this is symbolic, by the way. This isn't slavery here. But they are to be the servants of the priesthood, that they may serve Aaron, and that they may serve the whole congregation in pertaining to the things of the tabernacle. And you remember, God says anyone who comes near that's not supposed to come near will be put to death. So someone has to come near. And originally, God was saying, hey, the firstborn are mine. Those are the ones. But that would be kind of hard to keep track of. And so he said, instead of taking all the firstborn of the children of Israel, I'm going to take the Levites in their stead. This is one of the first examples of substitution. Or not one of the first, but this is a good example of substitution. Whenever God struck Egypt, he killed all the firstborn. And so where you have the dead firstborn, the Israelites, they all lived. So they became the living sacrifices to God. And so you have the dead sacrifices that wouldn't serve God, and you have the living sacrifices. This is actually mentioned by Paul in Romans, I think, Romans 12. He says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, present yourselves as a living sacrifice to God, holy and acceptable. And this is an example of it. But God needed someone to work the actual tabernacle, to come in and be able to move things around and do things the way they're supposed to. And so he says, instead of the firstborn of Israel, I choose the Levites. He says, those are the ones, they are mine. I sanctified to them them to myself whenever I killed the firstborn of Egypt. That turned the firstborn of Israel that were there mine. And so in verse 14 it says, then the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, number the children of Levi by their fathers' houses, by their families. You shall number every male from a month old and above. Now remember, the other census was from 20 years old and above. So the Levites are numbered from 1 month old. So it's a much different number. And so in verse 16 it says, so Moses numbered them according to the word of the Lord as he was commanded. These were the sons of Levi by their names, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And these are the names of the sons of Gershon by their families, Libni and Shimei. These are the sons of Kohath by their families, Amram, Ahizar, Hebron, and Uzziah. And the sons of Merari by their families, Mahli and Mushi. These are the families of the Levites by their fathers' houses. So we noticed Amram there. Verse 21, from Gershon came the family of the Libnites and the family of the Shimites. These were the family of the Gershonites. It's funny because he just repeated what he just said. So he just put ites on the end of everything. Those who were numbered, according to the number of all the males from a month old and above, of those who were numbered were 7,500. The families of the Gershonites were to camp behind the tabernacle westward. And the leader of the family father's house of the Gershonites was Eliasaph, the son of Lael. The duties of the children of Gershon in the tabernacle of meeting, including the tabernacle, the tent with its covering, the screen for the door of the tabernacle of meeting, the screen for the door of the court, the hangings of the court which are around the tabernacle and the altar, and their cords according to all the work relating to them. From Kohath came the family of the Amramites, and the family of the Izrahites, the family of the Hebronites, and the family of the Uzalites. These were the families of the Kohathites. According to the number of all the males from a month old and above, there were 8,600 keeping charge of the sanctuary. The families of the children of Kohath were to camp on the south side of the tabernacle, and the leader of the father's house of the families of the Kohathites was Elphazan, the son of Uzziel. Their duty included the ark, the table, the lampstand, the altars, the utensils of the sanctuary with which they ministered, the screen, and all the workings relating to them. And Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest was to be chief over the leaders of the Levites, with oversight of those who keep charge of the sanctuary. From Merari came the family of the Mahalites and the family of the Mushites. These were the families of Merari. And those who were numbered, according to the number of all the males from a month old and above, were 6,200. The leaders of the father's house of the families of Merari were Zuriel the son of Abihail. These were to camp on the north side of the tabernacle, and the appointed duty of the children of Merari included the boards of the tabernacle, its bars, its pillars, its sockets, its utensils, all the work relating to them, and the pillars of the court all around, with their sockets, their pegs, and their cords. Moreover, those who were to camp before the tabernacle on the east, before the tabernacle of meeting, were Moses and Aaron and his sons, keeping charge of the sanctuary to meet the needs of the children of Israel. But the outsider who came near was to be put to death. All who were numbered of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron numbered at the commandment of the Lord by their families, all the males from a month old and above, were 22,000. Now, let's talk about that number real quick before I show you something. 22,000. This is an example where we have a problem. Because whenever you add up those individual numbers from the families of Levi, we are 300 people short. The 22,000 is 300 people less than the total of 7,500 Gershonites, 8,600 Kohathites, and 6,200 Merahites. So many scholars believe that this is an example of where translation from one to the other gets messed up. Someone who is copying accidentally missed the 3 in the 22,000. Should be 22,300. Because all the other numbers match up throughout the Bible. Verse 1 and verse 2, you add those numbers. It was added in 2 different ways. They all came up to the right number. This is the only place where these numbers, are not added correctly. And so most scholars believe that this was a mistake of whoever was copying it way back in ancient times. In fact, the Septuagint, which is one of the earliest copies of the Bible, it was copied over by 70 men. That's where it gets the name Septuagint. That actually has 22,300. But earlier copies of it don't have the 300. And so we think that the Septuagint realized, hey, this was a mistake. Let's put it back in. So most scholars believe that it should be 22,300. This is an example of that kind of an error. And we know that because it's individualized. Whereas whenever we were talking about the numbers in chapter 1, that would have been on a massive scale. It's not just one number they messed with. It would have been 12 numbers they've accidentally messed up. So keep that in mind as you read that number is off by 300. So I want to show you the chart of the camp now. So now, it's the same chart we had before, but now we have, it mentioned Gershom first, 7,500 in the back. Then it mentioned Kohath with 8,600 down here, and Merari at the top. I find it interesting and of course, Moses and Aaron here at the front. Remember, the front for all of Israel is east. All of the Bible, its primary direction is east. It's not north like it is in modern days, because east was the rising of the sun, so that is the primary direction. And so these are the favored. And of course, what's on the right hand is always considered the son of strength. It's the place of honor after the primary person. It's on his right, which is Kohath. And what did Kohath take care of? They took care of the ark and all of the furniture inside the tabernacle. The holy things that no one was allowed to see or touch. That's what Kohath took care of. But they don't mention Kohath first. They mention Gershom. Then they mention Kohath. Then they mention Merari, putting the tabernacle and its furnishings once again in the center of everything they're talking about. God still kept the tabernacle at the heart of everything. Now in the next chapter, it does throw that off a little bit, and it talks about Kohath first. But whenever he's talking about the basic structure, he still talks about Gershom first, then Kohath, then Merari. And so it all kind of centers around God's presence. And so this is what the camp of Israel now looked like. And I can imagine whenever Moses kind of came out and said, okay, we need to change where you guys are sleeping. This is how we're supposed to lay down. And he holds up this map he probably drew out. And he says, this is what it should look like. Find your place. And I'm sure there were people that were going, but some kids, But my friends are in Issachar, and I'm Manasseh. You realize how far away that is? And so I'm sure there was that kind of thing, but the whole camp had to reorganize. And so they all set up around the tabernacle like this. Even the Levites are now forming that barrier to make sure that the people who might get enamored with the God of Israel and the fact that there's a pillar of fire standing over the tabernacle don't come near. Because I got to be honest, it would be really tempting. It's right there. What does it look like inside? What does the ark actually look like? It'd be tempting to go. The Levites were the ones to keep that. They suddenly see someone from Gad trying to come in. Kohath is going to go, hey, where are you going? You really shouldn't go that way. Anyone who goes near is going to die. You don't want to do that. So that's what they were for. It wasn't to prevent people like, you're not allowed in. This is for your own good. It's like preventing the child from grabbing the heating element in an oven. Yeah, it's pretty. Don't touch it. It'll hurt. You'll be sorry. It's out of love we do it, not out of punishment. And so they went through and recamped like this. So picking it back up in verse 40, says, Then the Lord said to Moses, Number all the firstborn males of the children of Israel from a month old and above, and take the number of their names. And you shall take the Levites for me, for I am the Lord, instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel. And the livestock of the Levites instead of the firstborn among the livestock of the children of Israel. So Moses numbered all the firstborn among the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded him. And all the firstborn males, according to the number of names from a month old and above, of those who were numbered of them, were 22,273. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take the Levites instead of the firstborn among the children of Israel. A minute ago I said it backwards. I apologize. They believe that Gershom was 300 off in its total, not the total number. because God quotes the total number here of 22,000. Verse 44, then, where did I stop? We'll just start at 44. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites instead of the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the livestock of the Levites instead of their livestock, and the Levites shall be mine. I am the Lord. And for the redemption of the 273 of the firstborn of children of Israel, who are more than the number of Levites, you shall take 5 shekels for each one individually. You shall take them in the currency of the shekel of the sanctuary, the shekel of 20 gerahs. And you shall give the money with which the excess number of them is redeemed to Aaron and his sons. So you had 22,000 of the children of Levi, and you had 22,273 of the firstborn of Israel. So you have 273 you got to account for. And God says to redeem them, you need to take 5 shekels from each of those 273 people. I always find it interesting. It doesn't say 5 shekels of what? I assume it's silver, but I don't know. And in case you were wondering, 5 shekels is 2 ounces. Basically 1/8 of a pound. So, not a whole lot. I mean, in today's standard, silver is quite expensive, so yeah. But back then, remember how much silver everyone had. And they're to give it to Aaron and his sons to do the work of the Lord, to work and minister in the sanctuary. So in verse 49 it says, so Moses took the redemption money from those who were over and above those who were redeemed by the Levites. From the firstborn of the children of Israel he took the money, 1,365 shekels according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And Moses gave their redemption money to Aaron and his sons according to the word of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. I always wonder how they decided who gave that money. I mean, those poor 273 that, sorry, this is the cutoff. You guys owe money. I always wondered, did they split it up among the entire 2,273 and say, okay, this is how much money we need. Everyone needs to give, a quarter of a shekel. Or if they said, okay, you're the 273. You're the lucky one. Sorry. You all owe 2 ounces of silver. Don't know. It actually says it took it from those 273, but that might be able to be interpreted different. But either way, they took that money and they gave it to Aaron and his sons as ministers so that they could use it for whatever they needed to buy. Because remember, they've got daily sacrifices and stuff. And so they have to be able to get those sacrifices from something. When they run out of the spices, they have to get the spices. So they need money. It wasn't like they were just keeping it to, I've got money now, right? And so in chapter 4, verse 1, it gets a little bit more specific on the responsibilities. In verse 1, it says, then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, take a census of the sons of Kohath from among the children of Levi by their families, by their father's house, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, all who enter the service to do the work of the tabernacle of meeting. This is interesting because it shows an age frame of people who are to work. The others were not allowed to work. So from the age of 30 all the way to the age of 50. The interesting thing is in chapter 8, verse 24, it says that they began their work at the age of 25, not 30. So it's possible those first 5 years were apprenticeship of learning how to do the job. 5 years of training to make sure you do it right, because if you handle the tabernacle wrong, you could die. It makes sense, right? Whenever you start you look at training now in jobs and you're like, oh, I've got 6 weeks of training. This is horrible, right? But if you mess up at your job, do you die? No. So you might get fired at most, but they're not going to put you to death. Whereas this was life and death. And so they apprenticeshiped them for probably about 5 years. And so from 30 years old to 50 years old. Verse 4, this is the service of the sons of Kohath in the tabernacle of meeting relating to the most holy things. When the camp prepares to journey, Aaron and his sons shall come, and they shall take down the covering veil and cover the ark of testimony with it. This is the veil between the holy and the most holy. Then they shall put on it, and they cover the ark with it. Then they shall put a covering of badger skins, spread over that a cloth entirely of blue, and they shall insert its poles. So, interestingly enough, the term badger skins there is a term, is the Hebrew word tahash. We don't know what that means. So, the commentary I read put, translators have had difficulty identifying the precise nature of the hides of sea cows, as it translates in some of the versions. Calls it sea cows. The Hebrew word rendered sea cows as tahash is similar to the Arabic term for dolphin, hence the porpoise hide or hide of sea cows. So that's how some of them translate. I also got it out of Strong's Lexicon. A lot of people know Strong's Concordance. This is their, it says the definition is dolphin, porpoise, or fine leather. It's kind of broad there. And the meaning is an animal with fur, a species of antelope. And so it jumps all of a sudden to antelope. We really don't know what this word means. It says the origin is uncertain. It's possibly derived from an Egyptian word or may refer to a specific animal known in ancient times. There is no Greek equivalent to it or Hebrew equivalent. This is the only place it's found is in the Bible. So we have no real idea. It was evidently specific to the Hebrew people to refer to a specific animal. But we don't know what it is. It says, cultural and historical background. In the ancient Near East, the use of animal skins for various purposes was common, including clothing, tents, and sacred objects. The tahish skins mentioned in the Bible were considered valuable and suitable for the holy construction of the tabernacle, indicating their quality and significance. The precise identification of tahish remains a topic of scholarly discussion, reflecting the challenges of translating ancient terms with no direct modern equivalent. So we don't know what kind of animal it is. It might have been badgers. It might have been dolphin skins. I don't know where they would have gotten dolphin skins except the Red Sea, because that was connected to the ocean. But it's possible that everything in the tabernacle was covered with dolphin skins. How crazy would that be? Right? But we don't know what it was. But they used it on everything. This is interesting because the ark first got covered by the veil that separated it from the rest of the tabernacle. Then they covered that with these badger skins. And then they covered that with a cloth of blue. Everything else is covered with a cloth and then covered with badger skins. That's it. So this is the only color when they're actually traveling, is the ark. And so in verse 7 it says, on the table of showbread they shall spread a blue cloth, put its dishes, pans, bowls, and the pitchers for pouring, and the showbread shall be on it. They shall spread over them a scarlet cloth, and cover the same with a covering of badger skins, and they shall insert the poles. And they shall take a blue cloth, and cover the lampstand for light, and its lamps, its wick trimmers, its trays, and all its oil vessels, with which they shall service it. Then they shall put it with its utensils in a covering of badger skins, and put it on a carrying beam. Verse 11. Over the golden altar they shall spread a blue cloth, and cover it with coverings of badger skins, and they shall insert its poles. Then they shall take all the utensils of the service with which they minister in the sanctuary, put them in a blue cloth, cover them with coverings of badger skins, and put them on a carrying beam. Also they shall take away the ashes from the altar, and spread a purple cloth over it. They shall put on it all its implements in which they minister there, the fire pans, the forks, the shovels, the basins, and all the utensils of the altar. And they shall spread on it a covering of badger skins and insert its poles. And when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary and all the furnishings of the sanctuary, then the camp is set to go. Then the sons of Kohath shall come and carry them, but they shall not touch any holy thing, lest they die. These are the things in the tabernacle of meeting which the sons of Kohath are to carry. The appointed duty of Eleazar the son of Aaron, the priest, is the oil for light, the sweet incense, the daily offering, the anointing oil, the oversight of the tabernacle, and all that is in it, with the sanctuary and its offerings. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, do not cut off the tribe of the families of the Kohathites from among the Levites, but do this in regards to them, that they may live and not die when they approach the most holy things. Aaron and his sons shall go in and appoint each of them to his service and his task, but they shall not go in to watch while the holy things are being covered, lest they die. So, imagine the thing. All of a sudden, the pillar of cloud lifts up off the... Aaron and the priests go, oh, that's our signal. They go in, they go to the ark, and they take down that veil, they cover the ark. They put on the badger skins, they put on the next covering. Then they go to the lampstand. Then they go to the other altar. Then they go to the table. And they just cover everything. They're putting them in bags. You notice some of them was put a covering on it, and other ones were put it in a covering. And so all the utensils, and they put them on carrying beams. So I assume, a plank of wood. They set them on that so that the children of Kohath don't actually touch them. And they do that for everything inside the tabernacle. They just cover it up. That was the job of Aaron and the priest. Now, Eleazar the son, who is now the oldest living son, he is in charge of the oil, the spices of the incense, and the grain offerings. Those are the things he's in charge of carrying. It's the only thing the priests carry. Everything else the Levites carry. And he's also in charge of basically all the Levites, but specific administration over the Kohathites who take care of the tabernacle furniture, basically. And he says the Levites are not supposed to be in the tabernacle when things are being covered, or they'll die. They're not supposed to come in and watch. And go, watch, he's about to cover that one. There it goes. Oh, into the bag it goes, They're not doing that. They got to stay outside and wait. Then we get verse 21. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, also take a census of the sons of Gershon by their father's house, by their families from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old. You shall number them, all who enter to perform the service, to do the work of the tabernacle of meeting. This is the service of the family of the Gershonites. In serving and carrying, they shall carry the curtains of the tabernacle and the curtains of the tabernacle and the tabernacle of meeting with its coverings, the covering of the badger skins that is on it, the screen for the door of the tabernacle of meeting, the screen for the door of the gate of the court, the hangings of the court which are all around the tabernacle and altar, and their cords, all the furnishing for the service, and all that is made for these things. So they shall serve. Aaron and his sons shall assign all the service of the sons of Gershonites, all their tasks and their service, and you shall appoint them all their tasks as their duty. This is the service of the family of the sons of Gershon in the tabernacle of meeting, and their duties shall be under the authority of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest. So, the sons of Gershon carry all the fabric. It's the easy way to remember it. Gershon carries the fabric. Anything that's fabric, they're carrying it. The duties of the sons of Merari in verse 29. As for the sons of Merari, you shall number them by their families and by their father's house from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old. You shall number them, everyone who enters the service to do the work of the tabernacle of meeting. And this is what they must carry, and all their service for the tabernacle of meeting. The boards of the tabernacle, its bars, its pillars, its sockets, and all the pillars around the court with their sockets, pegs, and cords, with all their furnishings and all their service. And you shall assign to each man by name the items he must carry. This is the service of the families of the sons of Merari, all their service for the tabernacle meeting, under the authority of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest. So Eleazar is over the Kohathites. Ithamar is over both the Gershonites and the Merarites. And then verse 34, it says, and Moses and Aaron, the leaders of the congregation, numbered the sons of Kohath by their families and by their fathers' houses from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, everyone who entered the service of the work of the tabernacle of meeting. And those who were numbered by their families were 2,750. These were the ones who were numbered of the families of the Kohathites, who might serve in the tabernacle of meeting, whom Moses and Aaron numbered according to the commandment of the Lord by the hand of Moses. This part gets a little repetitive because it's going to do the same thing for Gershom and Merari. So just bear with me for a moment. And those who are numbered of the sons of Gershom, by their families, by their father's house, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, everyone who entered the service of the work of the tabernacle of meeting, those who were numbered by their families, by their father's house, were 630. These are the ones who were numbered of the families of the sons of Gershom, and all who might serve in the tabernacle of meeting, whom Moses and Aaron numbered according to the commandment of the Lord. Verse 42. All of the families of the sons of Merari, who were numbered by their family, by their father's houses, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, everyone who entered the service of the work in the tabernacle of meeting, those who were numbered by their families, were 3,200. These are the ones who were numbered of the families of the sons of Merari, whom Moses and Aaron numbered according to the word of the Lord by the hand of Moses. All who were numbered of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron, the leaders of Israel, numbered by their families and by their fathers' houses, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, everyone who came to do the work of the service and the work of bearing burdens in the tabernacle of meeting, those who were numbered were 8,580. According to the commandment of the Lord, they were numbered by the hand of Moses, each according to his service and according to his task. Thus were they numbered by him as the Lord commanded Moses. So you have not only the total number of from a month old on up, but now you have a very specific group of those who are numbered from 30 years old to 50 years old. And those were numbered were 8,580. Go ahead and put up that next slide. And just to kind of give you a rundown of what it was, Gershom was under Ithamar. From ages 30 to 50 were 2,630. They were in charge of the tent of the tabernacle with the additional coverings, like the badger skins and the goat's hair. The screen of the door of the court, the hangings of the court, and it says the cords, but I'm not sure. That can be interpreted several different ways. It could be the cords of the tabernacle, or it could be that it was saying that the curtains surrounded the cords, because it says the curtain that surrounds the tabernacle and the altar. So it could be the tabernacle and the altar and the cords are all one phrase. So because under Kohath, or not Kohath, but Merari, if we jump over here, he's in charge of all the cords of the court and the cords of the tabernacle. So we're not sure. It mentions cords twice, or at least I'm not sure. So Kohath is under Eleazar. He's in charge of the ark, the table of showbread, the lampstand, the altars, the utensils, the veil. Eleazar has the incense, the grain offerings, the anointing oil. Merari is under Ithamar again, and he has all the physical items to set up everything. Gershom carries the fabric. He carries the physical items like the boards, the pillars, the sockets, the pegs, and the cords. So it's all split up very evenly and very specifically. And so we have a very large group of people having to do this. So it's not like as they were walking along, one person had to do it the whole time. They said they assigned them by name. It was probably by father's house name. So this group, you guys are in charge of carrying the ark. Whenever one of you gets, or if there's 4 people carrying it, whenever one of you gets tired, someone switch out. Because we're going to carry this thing all the way. No one's allowed to put it on a cart. And you also have your guys' own household to carry. So, I mean, it was a big thing. But this is what it looked like. And as they were organized around, first thing that would happen, that pillar went up, like I said, Aaron would go in, him and his sons would cover everything, the sons of Kohath, and at that point, they would say, okay, camp's ready to go. So then Judah would start taking off, right? And those with his little triad right in the front. While they're doing that, Gershom and Merari would start taking down all the fabric off of the tabernacle, taking the boards apart, taking this whole shrine, as you might think of it, apart, and start packing it up, getting ready to go. And the sons of Kohath are going into the tabernacle, and they're picking up the ark and the table and the lampstand and all that on the carrying beams, and they're picking them up, and they're starting to carry them away at stretchers, so that by the time, because it goes, Judah's, and then whoever's on the south side, that's Reuben, and his three. Those two go off first, and as soon as they get out of the way and get in line, the tabernacle moves out. And all the sons of Levi, right in the middle. And so it's interesting to see the organization that was taking place. And to see how the timing would work. Because they had to have time to pull it down and put it back up. And then whenever they get to where they're going, it'd be the opposite. Judah and them would start camping. Reuben and them would start camping. The tabernacle would come in, and they would start setting it all up. The Levites would start camping around, and then you'd have the west side and the north side. And so it's all very organized and direct. So I find it interesting. I know a lot of people are probably having problems with this part, but that's all right. It's all part of God's plan. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for today. Thank you for your word, Lord. Thank you that you do show us organization, that you do help us to understand how it relates, Lord, and how we can use this, Lord, in our own lives, Lord Jesus, and to see your moving throughout all this. And you loved us so much that you organized all this. You didn't just tell us to do it. You told us exactly how to do it. And you do the same thing in our life, Lord. Thank you for always being there and guiding us and directing our steps. Lord, I pray that you would take us from here, that you would keep us safe all week long, Lord, and that you would protect us. Lord, that you would help us to be good witnesses everywhere we go and in everything we do. Father, and that you would bring us back safely next week to learn more about you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.